Campaign season's in full swing, and we are joined by a man at the center of the biggest race, biggest primary I can think of in a long time. Congressman Billy Long, running for U.S. Senate. Thank you for joining us on This Week in Missouri Politics.
You bet, Scott. Thanks for having me up.
How's the race going?
It's going good. I'm getting around everywhere, going around the state. When I ran for Congress the first time, it was an 8-way primary, and I was supposed to come in 9th. This one's a 6-way primary, and I'm supposed to come in 7th. But in that first race, I had the best name ID of anyone in the race. This one, I probably had the least name ID, so that I knew from day one that'd be a big challenge, and so that's why I'm trying to get around all over the state and introduce myself to folks.
It looks like you have fun doing it. That's what I like. I mean, I've told folks on this show in different places, if every Republican primary voter had dinner with all 6 folks, they'd vote for Billy Long and he'd win by 10, 20 points. It is, you look like you enjoy campaigning.
I do, and on August the 3rd, I'm going to be the happiest guy in Missouri. I'm either going to be the next United States Senator from the state of Missouri, or I'm going to be back in Springfield, and either one is fine with me. So it's not life or death to me. I was sworn into Congress at 55 years old. How many politicians do you know that start their career in Congress, number 1, and at that age, number 2? So I don't owe anyone anything. No one owes me anything. I did it for the right thing for the right reason. I've done that every day that I've been there. And last November of 20, I got the highest raw vote total I've ever received and highest percentage, which is pretty unusual for someone to be in Congress for 9 years and 10 months, almost 10 full years, and have your constituents that pleased with you. Media doesn't like me. Republican Party, I'm not their favorite, I can tell you. So I've always been the outsider, and I haven't played the political game. So we'll see how this shakes out, but either way, I'm going to be fine.
I knew I liked you for a reason. I mean, let me ask you this. I remember back in 2015, I just had a feeling. I'm from Butler County, in your neck of the woods, southern Missouri, that is, and I just thought Trump was going to win that primary in Missouri. And David Stillman would say he would support him, and I remember vividly, you said the Trump train's leaving the states, you better get on. And that's when they were rigging caucuses for Ted Cruz back. The people that are the biggest Trump supporters today were all talking about Ted Cruz was the guy you had to have. You were Trump early and often. What in your gut put you there?
I've got a good, for not being a politician, I've got a really good political gut. I could see that he had something going on. He wasn't a Bob Dole. He wasn't a John McCain. He wasn't a Mitt Romney, the ones that the party wants. Like I said, the party is not real fond of me. They were sure not fond of Trump. And I remember the first time he came to the Capitol, which was in July of 16, right before the convention. And Paul Ryan, who I saw on CNBC this morning for the first time in 3 years, today did his first TV interview, and in 3 years. And he was up at the front of the room with Kevin McCarthy and Kathy McMorris Rogers and Steve Scalise and all the leadership. And I got up to the microphone and I said, Mr. Trump, your problems in this room, these people in this room are not for you. And truer words were never spoken. I took heat all around the world. I'd go on trips with other congressmen on Codels, and we'd be meeting with world leaders from all over the world. I could name different countries we were in, and all anybody wanted to know is who's going to win the election. Who's going to win the election? And it was Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, all around the conference tables. And they'd say Hillary, 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 till they got around to Billary. And Billary would say Trump, and they just all die laughing. They just thought I was crazy. But
is there anything better for a Southern Missouri guy than to tell those East Coast elitists or the St. Louis elitists something, have them all scoff at you, then end up being right?
Oh, no, yeah, exactly.
All right, now tell me, though, let's get back to this race. You're running, 6 people running, 6, 7. Currently, right now, Donald Trump said more nice stuff about you than anybody, I guess, publicly.
Right.
You actually talked to Donald Trump, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be kind of neat.
Yeah.
Tell me, is he going to come out and support you in this race?
I do not know, Scott, and I haven't promised anyone that he will.
Sure.
The thing I've said from day one is whoever he supports, it's over. He endorses in Missouri. Everyone else might as well fold their tent and go home.
That's not been the case everywhere. I saw in Georgia, he went against the sitting governor, and that didn't work out at all. Some of these Alabama, he endorsed a guy, then pulled it back, and now the guys, these endorsements haven't been the normal decisive Donald Trump moves we saw. They've been a little different.
Yeah, they have. And if they asked me last night at an event, if I would get the endorsement, I said, if you can figure out the Rubik's Cube of Donald Trump and how and why he endorses, you tell me. But I can tell you this. We polled a couple of weeks ago, And some unusual things came out of that poll. And I said, I want a legit poll. I mean, when Schmidt's people poll, he's always on top. When Vicki's people poll, she's always on top, mysteriously enough. When Greitens' people poll, he's always on top. In our poll, Greitens was first, which I'll tell you right now, he is in first. People say, how could people vote for him? Well, hide and watch, because he's in first place.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Schmidt is second. Hartzler's third. I'm fourth. And the split between me and Vicki wasn't as much as you would think. But
how are you going to change that?
How are we going to change what?
How are you going to change that? How are you going to go from fourth to first?
Oh, okay, I have two paths to victory. Number one, Trump endorses me. Like I said, I'm at 11 in my poll. There's polls where I was at 14. I've seen one at 9 something, but in my mind, I'm at a true 11% in this race. J.D. Vance, and I told the president this the other day, I said, Mr. President, I said, J.D. was at 11 when you endorsed him, same place I am. He shot up to the top of the polls the next day, and he won by 10 points. He won it going away. Same thing would happen to me. So that's my sales pitch to the president.
Let's say Donald Trump just stays out of it.
Okay.
How do you win?
The billionaires' big bucks. You've heard of BBB, Build Back Better. Well, billionaires' big bucks. There's 3 billionaires here in St. Louis that have given Eric Schmidt $3.5 million for his super PAC. There's 2 out-of-state billionaires that have given Eric Greitens the same $3.5 million for his super PAC. Mitch McConnell, some friends of his, former NRA guys, set up a PAC for Vicki 4 days after Josh Hawley endorsed her. They endorsed Vicki Hartzler and Katie Britt, who came in first in Alabama the other night. They're going to have a runoff with Mo Brooks, you were talking about earlier. But they are beating each other mercilessly with that money. Schmidt's attacking Greitens and Hartzler. Greitens is attacking Schmidt and Hartzler. And I don't know, I haven't seen Vicki's ads, what they're doing, or if they've even engaged yet. But I'm hoping that people will get sick and tired of all the negative stuff and look to a guy that went there for the right reason, stayed true to his beliefs, came out with more conservative voting record in all those categories of anybody you want to talk to, and they'll look at the guy down in Springfield. That's my second way to path to victory.
I think if you did a Mount Rushmore of United States senators from the great state of Missouri, you'd have obviously Thomas Hart Benton, you'd have Kit Bond, maybe Symington, maybe Eagleton, but you'd have Roy Blunt. It's an amazing responsibility replacing Roy Blunt. Can you deliver for Missouri like Roy has?
I sure think that I can. And one thing about Roy that I appreciate, even when he came through a tough race, the first time he ran, the second time that he ran, when we would come through a race, he wasn't on the ballot for another 6 years. You'd see him the next weekend in Missouri. I'd be with him at an event in Springfield one night, and the next morning I'd wake up and see him in St. Louis at an event in St. Louis. He comes home all the time. He gets around the state.
I think he loves the state.
He does, and I do too, and that's what I want to do. I mean, Roy taught me when I was first running, I was going through a big department, not a department store, a drugstore there in Springfield, a huge one, it's closed now. But he said, hey, Billy, and I looked over and he was on the other side of the aisle, and he said, what you're doing right now is the hardest part of politics. I said, what's that? And he said, campaigning. He said, the best part of politics is when you get elected and you can start helping people. And truer words were never spoken. He was great on constituent services. I've always concentrated on constituent services. And a congressman or a senator is much more effective at home than they are running to cable and TV shows every night and never coming to Missouri and arguing bills on the floor. I've been there almost 12 years now. And I don't think one vote has been changed in the 12 years I've been there. All the debate that goes on the floor that people watch on C-SPAN, but it's great for it's great for politics. And I'm not into politics.
If I'm having a beer somewhere, if I'm out eating breakfast somewhere, folks talk about gas prices. What has happened since Donald Trump left office? People tell me Ukraine, and gas has went up since that war started, but gas was up in near $4 a gallon before that war began. That just doesn't seem to me like that's the problem in Nixa or West Plains or Trenton, Missouri. What's happening?
What's happened was we were energy independent. I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I was on the Energy Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce. We fought long and hard. We were never able to export LNG, liquefied natural gas. We fought long and hard, got that done a few years ago. On January 21st, 11:59 a.m., we were energy independent. 1 minute later, 12 o'clock, when Joe Biden got sworn in, he did everything he could do to undo what Trump. He had a case of Trump derangement syndrome so severe that he wanted to undo everything that Trump did that was great. The first thing he did was stop Keystone XL pipeline. Then he went to the border wall, stopped the construction on the border wall, did away with the Remain in Mexico policy. Anything, he was so ate up with his hatred of Donald J. Trump, which I got to tell you, there's a lot of never-Trumpers on the Republican side of the aisle, too.
Sure.
And I can't fathom them. I can't stand them. People told me, they said, well, Trump has the most dysfunctional White House ever. And I say, no, not really. When you think about it, the most dysfunctional Republican White House ever was Bob Dole. And another one was John McCain. His White House was very dysfunctional. And Mitt Romney's was really dysfunctional. I'm like, you idiots. They were never president. You know, they all love all these guys because they don't tweet and they don't mean tweet and stuff. So Trump's his own brand. And
well, I think an old boy in Tipton, Missouri would take a few mean tweets to pay $2 gas again. Let me ask you this, though. Joe Biden, I don't know him like you. I've never met him like you have, but he seems like a nice man. He seems like a fundamentally good man. It feels like he can't stand up to maybe some of the left-wing folks that say, oh, just drive a Prius, or just, you know, you don't need to drive a car anyway. I mean, that delusional left-wing stuff, it feels like maybe he just doesn't have the gravel in his gut to stand up to him. What is the problem and the disconnect from a guy that seems like a good guy to just bizarre policies that are really breaking folks back?
Well, you look back at his history over a period of time on abortion, on everything else. He's changed 180 degrees, but people thought they were getting nice. They're like, Trump's mean, he mean tweets, sure. We want to get rid of Trump. They thought they were voting for a nice moderate. But he has run so far to the left to placate his green people, the Green New Deal and all of that stuff that's going to kill us. Everyone wants clean water. Everyone wants clean air to breathe. Everybody wants to get off of oil at some point. But as we were driving up here, we were on Highway 65 in Springfield going to hit 44 to come up here. And I looked over in the lane, and it's 3 lanes there, and in the middle lane was this Tesla. And it was from Minnesota. And I'm like, how many days is it going to take him to get to Minnesota? Because you got to stop and charge that sucker up.
So Teslas are fine, but I'm an F-150 guy.
$55,000 for a Tesla, and that's all Biden said. Just go out and buy a Tesla.
Before I let you go, I on Twitter, I said, I'll bring the case with me. When can I ride the Billy bus? Is it going to be back out before the election?
I don't know. We took it off the road whenever winter hit because we had to winterize it. Yeah. Of course, we leased it. Our plan was to bring it back out in the spring, but we'll have to see how things go, whether we get it back out there or not. But
well, either way, we look forward to following you through the campaign. Thank you for joining us.
BillyLong.com. Tell them to go to BillyLong.com and check us out. I appreciate it, Scott.
If I could say it as deep a voice as you could, I would.
I'm at 125 hands to about 225.
I was hoping you'd do it. We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel. But first, go to ShowMissouri.com. This is Missouri one county at a time. We're in Grundy County, Missouri, talking all about the history of Grundy County and the Smiling Bandit Roy Gardner. ShowMissouri.com. Go check it out. We'll be right back after this.
As a former sheriff, it alarms me to see some of the attitudes towards those who have taken an oath to defend our communities and keep us safe. We must learn from the failed policies in other cities and states to never allow anti-law enforcement measures to take hold in this state. We must work to strengthen our communities by supporting our men and women in law enforcement. In Missouri, we defend law enforcement, not defund them.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople, while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Your energy needs are changing. That's why at Ameren Missouri, we're not waiting on the future. We're building it with the Smart Energy Plan, advancing thousands of projects across the state, helping reduce emissions through cleaner energy sources, boost reliability with self-healing equipment, and better withstand storms with new composite poles. Moving Missouri forward and bringing us all a little closer together. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics. Very special program. Any show can have one Dinkins. We have two. Brett Dinkins from Victory, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And your mother, Representative Chris Dinkins from the Johnson Shut-ins District. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Keep an eye on him, right?
Oh, definitely.
Wiley Price, friend of the show, welcome back, sir.
Always good to be here.
And Ryan Hawkins, one of my favorite folks. You know about federal politics, state politics. I enjoy the visit.
Thank you.
Tell me, guns in school. Now, this is it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to talk about in every state, in every place. But in Missouri especially, because I hear people talk about federal gun control, that's probably the only way that happens that affects Missouri. You hear a tipping point, and I have two kids in school.
Right.
Makes me scared.
Me too.
But isn't this a thing that'll be talked about for 2 weeks and go away?
Unfortunately, that's what we've seen. It's thoughts and prayers and inaction, and we're right back to the next place we are. It's not just guns in schools. It's gun. The answer is it's always the gun, right? It is. Why do you need 1,600 rounds and an AR-15? Nobody needs that. They want that. And if we don't start cracking down and figuring out that, like what happened yesterday in Tulsa, man buys an AR-15 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, shoots the hospital up at 5 p.m. with that gun and those rounds. Something has to be done. Something has to be done in the federally. Something has to be done in the state. And I'm going to say this to every legislator that's out there, federal and state. Y'all have got to find the courage to do this.
Representative, if you do that, your district's going to hate it.
Oh, absolutely hate it. I also actually had a bill this year, school protections officer bill. Currently, school districts in the state of Missouri can deem teachers or certified administrators as a school protection officer where they can carry. My bill would allow the school district to allow other people who are employed by the school district to also carry guns. Now, this, in our rural community, as we've talked about before, sometimes it takes a police officer 45 minutes to get from one part to the other, and you know the roads and the lack of police force. So the school district could train through the post. They have to be post certified, 120 hours plus CCW carry. They could elect to have one of these, whether it's a maintenance person or a school bus driver, to be the school protection officer and carry on campus.
You know your way around the classroom.
Exactly.
Is this the answer? To have folks in the schools that are armed to put a problem, to try to stop a problem like this? And you look, the classrooms you're very familiar with really aren't the places typically we have these shootings. They're suburban classrooms. Suburban folks normally aren't too keen on carrying guns everywhere.
You're right, and it's education. I think education is the answer. We've got to educate more people. You say they don't happen in rural schools. That's because our kids grow up with guns in the home. They are educated from a very young age. I don't believe it's the gun that's the problem. It's the individuals using the guns.
Well, they probably break this down. I mean, the reason I love having you on the show is you can take things like this and talk about the practical realities. You could not, even after this, you could not pass a gun control ban through the House of Representatives. How do you reach out and talk to someone in the suburbs, which are where most of these things happen, and relate to the fear people have having their kids in school? But what is a thing you could plausibly do?
I think that there's pieces to this. First, for our Second Amendment lovers like myself, I'm a gun-toting Democrat. When the Second Amendment was written, it was for guns that it took 20 minutes to load one bullet. So this whole idea of loving your Second Amendment and your 50-round clip doesn't really fit for the way that this piece of legislation was written. Secondly, how old is 18 going to be in the United States? Is it going to be, hey, you're 18, I don't even trust you to borrow my car for 3 days at the rent-a-car place, or I don't even trust you to drink liquor, but I trust you to buy an AR-15.
Or go to Afghanistan and shoot an AR-15.
Go to Afghanistan and shoot an AR-15. So we have to decide as a country how old is 18.
Brett Dinkins, I mean, I think it's impossible not to see this trend that goes, like it's almost funny now, thoughts and prayers. Sure. But I don't think there's the appetite in this state to actually address this from a gun control perspective.
No, and I think I agree with Representative Price that we have a situation in which when do we consider someone an adult and what does that mean? I would really disagree with the idea that I could be tried as an adult at 18 for a crime and receive significant punishment, but I can't go out and buy a gun until I'm 21 or drink till you're 21. But there's a lot of discrepancy there. But at the end of the day, I grew up around guns. Everyone I knew grew up around guns. All my family owned guns. I have guns. These problems aren't happening in rural Missouri. There's a mental health component here as well. and we've got to figure that out.
I'll
It's
give you
it's the
pushback
gun.
on the mental health.
I agree.
I'll give you pushback on the mental health. I think that people go out and make very conscious decisions to do the things. They leave notes. They write things on the internet. There are red flags. It's not mental
no
health.
one who shoots 20 kids is sane mentally. I mean, you're
that's
not
true.
making. You can't say there's no mental
But
health
we'd have
component
no
there.
national red flag law, right? If we had national red flag laws that were fully funded, we would be able to start watching for this and figuring out what's going to happen, as opposed to, and with what you said about the school resource officers, Uvalde, Texas had a school police department, right? They had a dedicated police force and does not stop a fully body armored individual with 1,600 rounds coming into a school.
Let's talk about
It
somebody
is
that,
the gun.
that actually did something this year. It looked intelligent then. It looks very intelligent now. Senator Huff put in the budget $2 million to have an app where a school district can opt in and they can push an app and which notifies, I believe, all federal, local, and state law enforcement, even retired folks that sign up for this, police officers, that there's a active school issue, cuts down response time. I'm not sure that's not something you could actually do in Missouri to maybe stop this.
I think that the app is a wonderful idea. However, I think there's still going to be issues with
Yeah.
it. You know, we're struggling with cell service and internet issues in the rural communities already. It will cut down the response time, but you know, what are you cutting down when it's 45 minutes in my area? If you cut it in half, you still got 20 minutes. Look what can happen in 20 minutes. And again, I go back to education. It's educating individuals. It's educating them whether they need to learn at a young age. Because a lot of these instances, we find out that people knew that the individual was planning it. And people are not speaking up. We've got to educate people at a young age that if someone has a gun, if they're talking about a gun, they need to tell somebody in an authoritative position about
predictions,
that.
I mean,
A quick question, and I'll wrap it up. If you have 45 minutes for a response time, why would you want assault-style weapons and 1,600 rounds being sold in that
Well, you
community?
have 45 minutes for a response time.
When you have
You're not
45
having
minutes
this.
for a
And these
response
are very
time.
foreign concepts, I think. Give me a prediction. Will there be a federal piece of legislation that restricts gun access emanating from this?
I think there'll be three. I think there'll be a age limit of 21. I think there will be a ban on ghost guns on the internet, and I believe we'll have national red flag.
You think that'll happen?
I think this will be one of the first things that Biden is actually proactive about.
I think he's going to work real hard at trying to get it done, but I'm going to hope he doesn't.
Pass the
Thoughts
House.
and prayers, right? And
Pass
nobody
the House,
cares?
but not the Senate.
I'm not even gonna ask. There'll be no state response, right?
None.
There's no appetite for.
just
I
made
mean,
the
imagine the first
sample
guy in your
last
district that
week.
gets red flagged.
Last
He's not gonna
year.
like it.
No.
Right.
Brett Dinkins, let's talk about U.S. Senate races going on.
Sure.
It was a kind of a debate, but you're working with the Shots campaign, but to the point, I can understand why Eric Greitens doesn't want to come.
Yep.
Would you share a stage with Billy Long, who's hilarious, or Vicky Hartz, who's truly a very good moral person? Of course you wouldn't. Plus they're Republicans.
Right. Yeah. No. I think what we saw was we had Senator Schatz, Congressman Long, and Mark McCloskey show up, and the big three decided not to show up for Greene County, where there's a large population of Republican primary voters. I think it's a disservice to the electorate. I think that they owe it to them to debate and have a discussion on the ideas. And I think there's a lot of people taking advantage of where they're at, maybe in the polls right now, without actually doing the work to earn the votes of Republican primary
Billy Long
voters.
was on earlier. I understand why you wouldn't want to debate him. Representative Dinkins, where do you say? I mean, it looks to me like there's three folks with a pretty even shot. It's going to be one of the more interesting ends to a primary we've seen in a long time. Lots of money, but it looks like any of the three of them could win.
It looks like it's going to be close right down to the wire. I think any three of them could win at this point. We'll have to wait and see. It looks like Eric Schmidt has some good, strong grassroots going and some fundraising going. And, Vicky Hartzler's lacking a little bit of name ID in the rural communities. And people are still hanging on in the rural communities to Eric Greitens. So it's going to be a kind of a three-way.
Let me ask you this. You have seen behind the curtain in politics to a bigger extent than most anybody that could watch this. What's an important thing when you go to pick someone? What are you thinking about? What makes the determination to you? My assumption is you could probably vote for a few of these candidates and be comfortable with it. But what'll make you pick one?
Behind the scenes, looking at it, I look at more about what are they going to do once they get there? Are they going to change? Are the things they saying just talk? Or are they actually going to follow through and carry out? Also, with the primaries, are they going to be able to win in the general?
And
that's a big important thing.
Who could replace Roy Blunt? I mean, that's amazing. Let's talk about this. Lucas Goods came out, running a good campaign.
Yeah.
Personable guy.
Yeah.
Trudy Bush seemed like the greatest possible thing that could happen for Democrats. I mean, you're angling for if Eric Greitens wins the primary,
right,
and there's an independent,
right,
what's your best foot forward? I personally thought Coons could maybe be that person. Then I saw Trudy Bush, and I was like, well, of course, I'm a German American, but I haven't seen her.
Yeah, no. Before I comment on that part of it, I think I said back in the fall that I was going to sit back and eat popcorn and watch the Republicans go after each other. And then my popcorn bowl is still full. I'm enjoying it. As far as Trudy Bush, I think that we are starting to get into now the active part of the campaign. I think you're going to start seeing people. Truth be told, it's going to be about the ads and whether or not they cut through and who can cut through all the clutter. I think that Lucas is running, he's been running hard every day.
Yeah, he has been.
And I think that, if this is anything, it might be a tortoise in the hare type situation where he catches up.
I kind of like this Spencer Toder guy. He seems like a good guy. I like him.
I'm a Trudy Bush Valentine fan. I think that healthcare in the state of Missouri has been on the forefront for the last 4 years, and she is one of the only candidates in the Democratic, definitely, really in the whole race, that can really truly speak to that. She can speak to the poor healthcare, we're like last 5 in the country. She can speak to the low maternal death rate, and nobody else can speak to that, and it is a hot button topic.
Okay, let me ask you the question though: can she be like her dad? Can she go down to the Teamsters Hall and have a beer with folks and relate to them?
I think.
And why isn't she?
Like he said, I think now is the time that you'll start to see her in the urbans and in the labor unions. I think that she can. I think that she's true blue, old school nurse, and that is the other half of the working American.
A lot of sizzle there. It's going to be interesting to see when she actually starts talking to people. All right, with the Schatz campaign, give me how Dave Schatz wins this race.
Well, if you look back in 2016, Eric Greitens was in 4th, Peter Kinder was in 1st. At this time, in 2016. So there is still a lot of race left to go. They flipped spots by the end of it. Greitens was at 7%. So Dave Schatz has been, undervalued his entire life when it comes to what he's able to achieve. And I think anyone who is counting Dave Schatz out right now is going to be sorely surprised when it comes Election Day.
Give me a prediction on who wins that Republican race.
Vicky Hartzler.
Who wins that Republican side?
It's simple. It's going to be there's so many people in that race. It comes down to who already has a base built in, and that name is Eric Greitens.
Yeah. Who wins that Democrat side? I mean, it's an interesting thing. The rural folks, when Trump ran, the rural folks don't even vote in the primary, in the Democrat primary. They're all the Republican primary. So you're just talking about the cities and the People's Republic of Boone. Who wins?
Right now I'm going to say Bush.
Who wins?
Rural Missouri loves Bush.
I can't argue with that. Before we have to go, who won the week?
I'm going to say Dan Shaw. He locked down the Honorable Police Officers Association endorsement, and that's a big boost for him in Jefferson County.
His campaign style, you mentioned underestimating Dave Schatz. There's a bit of an underestimation, I think, sometimes of Dan Shaw.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was able to get a lot of things done. Redistricting obviously took a lot of energy out of the air, but he was in the forefront of that too, and I think he's been able to achieve a lot during his time in the legislature.
Who won the week?
I'm going to say Senator Holly Rader with her new book.
Nobody's going to beat that, but who won the week? Follow that, Wiley.
I got to say Biden, in speaking about his offensive earlier, him releasing the petroleum to help the inflation was a big deal move.
Who won the week?
I'm going to say Steve Roberts released a poll, 35-23, 40% undecided in the new 1st District. That's a race.
And you're working with him?
I am.
You got to get
of course, I got to get my plug in.
Are you going to poll well enough by the end of this to get national money involved here?
I think so.
Interesting. I was going to say Holly Rader. I even had it wrote down. This book is going to be outstanding. I've already bought mine. I'm going to say AFP, Americans for Prosperity. Jeremy Cady, Camelia Peterson went down to Fredericktown and gave out gas what it would cost 2 years ago. Good folks. I'm sure folks in Madison County appreciate it. We'll appreciate you coming back and joining us next week on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Support for this program has been provided by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and Sterling Bank.